What happens. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Today is Thursday, which means we have baby powder report on the site. And it's lots of fun listening to Julian and listening to his aggressive trading of the gold market. Also, too, I think he was short stocks and then covered and took some profits, and now he's sitting on the sidelines. Crazy up and down market, obviously, very sort of like mid range. So pretty much a mug's game trying to predict what's going to happen here tomorrow. Having said that, this is kind of a funny period in the market. Like I said yesterday, Canada was closed, center of the universe, so not surprising. Markets really didn't do much. Canada comes back first thing this morning, and stock markets rally like crazy because the Canadians are back. No. We had a pretty robust employment report come out of the States this morning, but the issue there, and you can see the non-farm payrolls number there is pretty robust and actually quite a bit more than expectation. But the only problem with this, of course, is payroll employment data is usually lagging indicator. And it's going to sort of be telling us a little bit about what the market, what the economy did maybe 2 or 3 weeks, a month ago. And, everything was opening up, all that kind of talk. So not really a big surprise to see that number come back positive. And also, too, non-farm payrolls, that number is notoriously inaccurate and is constantly revised. Having said that, tinfoil hats, that kind of conversation, was that motivation for them to push prices around on certain assets and trip up stop levels and all that kind of fun stuff? I think so. Because Canada and some other countries had a holiday yesterday, and the Americans, they have their holiday on the 4th, which means that their basically market is closed tomorrow. This is a really wonky window here, and actually what we even saw, because keep in mind, if tomorrow's a holiday, you think the New York guys and the Chicago guys, they're really going to stick around very late in the day? Usually we say most of the business for quote-unquote traders is done through the kill zones. So in essence, now we're just sort of like limping along into the close. So we had sort of the initial knee-jerk reaction, then the market squared itself up, and now what we see is the market's basically gone dormant here. And I would expect that. And my big caution, especially for like our currency traders and stuff overnight, was be careful with levels here and liquidity. It's great listening to Julian talk about his crazy gold market all over the map here today. And yet the irony of it all is that it actually, market's still pointing higher. This is holiday session, illiquidity, big old traps being laid by the institutions, run stop loss orders, create divergences, and then just continue the trend as before. So also too, add insult to injury, and this is sort of getting back to your chart deck, is we've got this big celestial event happening here. Actually, June 30th to July 1st. This was actually our event window here. So I don't know whether you felt it. We just went wow, where Jupiter and Pluto just aligned with Earth and the Sun. Hope you all caught that. But anyway, I'm still actually feeling very much like this is some sort of crazy fractal pivot down in here. And probably an excellent anecdote of that violently flat market state where we're just back and forth. What's going to happen next? What I'm really worried about here is if the econs in the States are showing things are relatively okay, do we actually have to go through a period where, number one, the Fed and all the bankers say, well, maybe we shouldn't give free money away anymore. Let's start raising interest rates again. Or, and Julian showed us a really great, actually, he talked about it. He didn't show us the chart, but I know exactly what he's mean. He mentioned that the stock market itself, if you actually look at the Fed's balance sheet, Fed balance sheet exploded higher here, and then the Fed's balance sheet has gone sideways. So in essence, you could make the argument that really this whole rally here was just nothing more than the Fed. It was, Mr. Barstool thinks he's so smart and pushing the market around, but really this is the actual central bank manipulating the market here. So we'll see how this goes. And of course, like we said, that was the July pivot. Maybe it was down April into July pivot and then down into November. Blech. I could see that. That wouldn't surprise me. And interesting enough, too, this is actually a very well-defined harmonic pattern. If we start crapping out here and emming out, well, that's probably it for the rally. Interesting, too, this is sort of our risk-on proxy. Does it really matter? I don't know whether it's really makes a lot of sense to be thinking about risk assets getting bid up too much heading into the long weekend. And as we had sort of talked about with Julian and the non-farm payrolls report and the lack of liquidity, was this maybe just a nice little FU liquidity push here this morning, and then we find out that the rally all was just hot air? I did notice while we was talking to the crew, of course, stocks, they jumped higher, stopwatches, all that, and then you can see they've all just sort of, and now I think we're probably into that holiday environment. All the traders are gone. They're probably just going to park this thing into the close here today. That kind of, and it's interesting because we even talked yesterday about how we were going to hit the gap on this crude oil here. So interesting how the market is sitting right at the level that we shorted. Relatively small risk window, and if the market does crap out here, oh boy, man, that's a big win. But you just never know. When you have these finite risk windows here, it might take 2 or 3 attempts to capture this big win. So we'll see how it goes. Should be a good demonstration for you guys. On the flip side, like I said, risk on. Catching a bit of bid off of that employment data. Illiquid market state. Can't trust a hell of a lot here. So it really doesn't surprise us that, and actually interesting, the bonds are coming back here now. So as the selling is intensifying in the stock market heading into the long weekend, the buying is coming back on the bond market, and here we are just sitting. I mean, how ironic. You could, and actually this would be really cool for people who follow Bollinger Bands. You can literally see the volatility is being sucked out of this market. And here we are right back at the original sort of channel bottom level. I have no idea how this is going to play out. And like we said, probably best to look at this trade in earnest when we either hit one of these levels or these levels and then go see what happened to our strangle idea. I suppose this kind of bullishness would be, more COVID cases ramping up, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how this long weekend, what kind of results it produces. I got a bad feeling, though, that the new cases are making new highs. This is going to be a social event weekend. We probably won't hear about the new cases that are going to turn up out of this event, because I think you could make the argument that the cases that you're seeing and hearing about now were actually, the seeds were set, were, planted like a month ago. So, boy, what can you say? And then, of course, as we head into fall and winter, the weather gets worse, and obviously this thing's going to have a lot more fun. So we ain't out of the woods yet on this COVID, and of course we talked about this, 2020, just a horrible year on balance. The interesting thing about the gold market here, though, is I believe that, and it makes sense for the gold bugs, like I do believe, number one, we're going to hit some sort of apex peak on that big celestial event into November, December, and the end of the year. Is it about, U.S. falls into civil war? I don't know. I mean, who knows about all that? But if we think about it just from a simple perspective, I like the idea of gold as being a risk-off asset. i.e., lack of confidence in the system, lack of confidence in the Fed and the bankers, and they're just going to have to keep printing money, get the printing presses going, blah, blah, blah. But also, too, if the stock market is relatively stable and it's pressing higher and the Fed's printing, and the government saying we're going to do more stimulus bills, more debt, right? Well, technically that's inflationary. So that helps gold as well, right? Just as a simple purchasing power of your money is collapsing. So in a weird sort of way, I don't think, in fear off situations, or I guess fear on, but, risk off situations, gold's move higher as a risk-off asset is going to be muted because of the margin selling and blah, 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 index selling, all that. But at the same time, too, when the stock market's relatively happy, it's also going to catch a bid. So it'll catch a bid through risk-off. It'll be muted because of margin calls. And then risk-off. But then risk-on, it won't act as a risk-off asset because the Fed's got the printing press going, dilution of money, blah, blah, blah. So in a weird sort of way, I can understand the thesis for being bullish of gold here. Still don't really like the idea of making quote-unquote investments in gold companies here based on value. In my opinion, this is purely a momentum play. Having said that, I'm a trader, right? I mean, traders got to trade. Hell, I had this one stock, which is kind of amusing, that was in the crypto space, and they got out of the crypto space. And what was really cool is we were able to get a double off, so it was free stock anyway. And they got into the resource space. Now, this was IBIT, and actually I was just showing Kevin this chart earlier. And you just never know in this crazy world how this crazy game of capitalism works. But IBIT, I got something like that, investor. And I'm probably just blabbing away here. But this met all our VCM criteria down here, so we bought it, sold half on a double, got free stock. And it was a crypto name. And so we're like, all right, awesome. We're playing crypto. Look at us. We're so cool. Then then the crypto market topped out and started to flounder. And they just decided, you know what? We don't want to be in the crypto business anymore. And so they changed themselves. They reorganized themselves into this company. Intermit is now this North Peak Resources, whatever the hell that is. And the irony of it all is that they've launched the stock higher here right out of the gate, and this price is actually the price that I sold half on a double at. So because they rolled the stock back 2-for-1. So if you happen to have bought that IBIT in the past, well, they've actually brought it back. They cleaned it up, and actually it looks like they want to take this thing a hell of a lot higher. But we'll see what happens there. Only time will tell. But I could see, regardless, and, ALO, what a great example here, eh? I got chicken shit and just said, nah, to hell with this, and I left that on the table. Tisk. But I've got a bunch of these fun little junior resources. Hell, here's one in the lithium business, geez. I mean, that's what I should be doing, right? I should have. What's so ironic is that ALO, if I was just patient and disciplined, imagine that, I would have been selling half on a double and had a free position on the others. But, oh well, hindsight's 20/20, of course. But we got a couple little junior metals names that were VCIMers that actually I've gone and taken positions in. So we do have metal plays there, and like I said, we've got some scenarios where stocks that were in the crypto space are actually going back into the resource business. Go figure. Can't remember where I wanted to go with all that. But oh well, it's a fun rant. I hope you guys are getting some value out of all this. So still looking for that US dollar to base through this period. I don't see any change here. And ironically enough, I think what we're actually going to get into a situation here where over maybe the next month or two, we might actually hear that, the U.S. is actually thinking about raising interest rates again. And that's just that. If that's the scenario and we start to see growth numbers, then that does paint this massive U.S. dollar bull market that I'm expecting to develop here. And this is where the world economy is going to get absolutely destroyed. So let's see what happens. It should be fun. All right, so we talked risk on, risk off. I guess a little bit more along those lines. Russell 2000 here tried to break out higher. It's sort of floundering here. Again, heading into the long weekend. I don't know whether I can really interpret too much into that. And, FYI, our group, we didn't even really buy a hell of a lot this week. So TRI SOFers, we'll take a look again on Tuesday, see if there's any ideas. But actually, we didn't do a heck of a lot of buying this week. Now, this was one name that I did buy. It was one of the Kavarkanators. And, of course, anytime Kevin's buying something, of course, I'm just going to ride his coattails. But ironically enough, like I said, we had that IBIT as a crypto proxy. And they're no longer in the crypto space. So, hey, let's go find another crypto-related proxy story if we can. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kevin said that he found some web podcasts and stuff on this company site saying that they're getting into the crypto business. I don't know. All I'm going to say is I love price charts, right? Anytime I get reload zones, Brian's going to be interested. Cute little range, and we actually got like sort of W's within W's here. So I went and bought some of that a day or two ago. You can see it's not a bad idea. Actually, usually, and I gotta say, I'm a little surprised. Come really close a couple times, and I was within a whisker of getting a double off there the other day, and then the damn stock gapped lower, and I had to blow it out at scratch. But really close on another one here this morning, but no doubles to report today. But one of these stocks actually was just looking absolutely beautiful. But you can see the whole market here is just bleh. Which one was it? Yeah, my little ZVO. I thought I was going to... Oh, I didn't think. I was hoping I'd get a nice fill here for you guys to report this morning. But I've got my order to sell up here at 375 on this guy. And there is a big old hole on the charts right up top here. So I'm just hoping for some sort of spike into that gap to give me a fill. But that's probably my brightest spot here in the market right now. But I haven't been selling it much on a double. Like I said, I got that blink trade off there at the beginning of the week. That was fun. Little forest stock. Jesus, that outside upside reversal. Very powerful. Did pick up a little bit of this gold here recently. Actually, I bought a little bit of that ADIL as well. So actually, it's lower than what I bought it at. There's a treat for you. These charts basically speak for themselves. Really like this MYO here right now. Very interesting. We get any kind of like bullish turn here, and I think this thing could take off. This is one of Kevin's ideas. So that guy's a good stock picker. All right. So I suppose the stock market story with the holiday coming up, kind of meh. I said I. Interesting name. Maybe go take a look at that. Do your own due diligence. Remember, everybody here, I'm not touting. I'm not selling any subscriptions. I'm not, telling you what to buy or sell. You do with what your money as you please. I'm telling you what I do with my money. If you want to join me, great. If you don't, I won't be insulted. Heading on over to crypto, I gotta say I still think that this is one of these scenarios where if you find a good fundamental story, and you find some good looking weekly W's, buy them. As for Bitcoin itself, this is kind of like pushing a chain. I don't think she's in a bull right now. I think she's in a trading range. Rallies up against top end of the range, should be on balance a net seller. Sell-offs against the bottom end of the range, you should be on balance a net buyer. If you are one of those range type of traders. Bigger picture, especially if we're thinking that some sort of big showdown with U.S. Congress. Keep in mind, you can't get these politicians to just hand out free money unless they're shitting their pants. I mean, if you put the vote to U.S. Senate right now, hey, do we want to give all these Americans some free money? They're going to say no. That's their job. And if they don't, then come next election, their opponent, who's standing in front of the voters, going, that guy there gave all of the freeloaders free money when they didn't need it, and he destroyed your country's credit rating. There's a lot on the line. This is high octane stuff. So I do believe that there is an incentive, especially in the stock market, not so much crypto, but I do believe that crypto's fate is very much tied with the stock market. I think they are both basically in the same risk category. So if we understand that there's that big sort of weight overhanging the market, we got to get the politicians freaking out to make sure that that next stimulus package is passed. Don't be surprised if we see some downside here. But I think, look how long this took to play out. Mr. Gann himself would just say, probably you should expect the correction to take about half as long as the initial move. So if that's the case, then really we shouldn't, where is 50% rules? That's Mr. Gann's bread and butter. So, what am I doing here? Going like that. 50%, where are you? There you are. Boom. So that's 7,139. And Mr. Gann would say that probably should happen right about half about how long it took for the rally to happen. So, like I had said earlier, I'm looking for that vote sort of the second to third week of July. And gee whiz, this study would take us right to about the 11th or 12th of July. So, don't be surprised if, ironically enough, this range will eventually resolve itself. And my hunch is Mr. Gann has a bad habit of being accurate. So don't be shocked. Probably, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks, we're seeing some serious downside price action. How deep this goes, I actually think that this low, these railroad tracks here, these lows to a certain degree, especially that tail right in there, there's a bunch of trap bears in there that would love to get released. And also, too, notice that that's the original actual bottom of the market. See, right along there. So that tail would all be eaten up right against railroad tracks. The original bottom, it's kind of a messy bottom, but nonetheless. So that's like, $6,000. And actually, I like that. Anywhere between $5,000 and $6,000, I think, is value on Bitcoin. So you probably see a lot of people step up and buy value then. So, it's not really the prettiest of pictures. And, of course, I think I've told you guys, I've got a bunch of puts on the books. Julian said he's completely hedged. So he has no crypto exposure right now if this thing does fall out of bed. So just be aware of that. It is what it is. I suppose, and this is what we do for our sort of trading community, lower time frame players, candle body lows, reload zone, trend line tag. Shouldn't surprise us that lower time frame traders come in and bought that dip. And of course, if this does start to WL, we've got one low, maybe 2 lows. If we can put in a third low and then start turning back up, well, maybe the bearish story can be put on pause. But for now, there's no reason for me to be overly bullish here. And my hunches through this weekend with all this sort of malaise of COVID, I can't really see this space catching too much of a bid, but who knows? Only time will tell. Follow your chalk marks. Finish this off, and really no change to this message. We had simply said, if crypto is a bull, just get its ass up through the top here. And once again, we're sort of floundering. So, I could make the argument there is a double top working there. Same sort of thing as Bitcoin and stuff. So the ball is in the bear's court. The question here is, what does the bear do with the ball? Do they dump it hard here? Or do they just say, screw it, we'll just go sideways? On that note, there are always bright spots. And, good old W's. I suppose you could have on this one hunted a little head and shoulders there for that rally, and then the W produced that rally. Then we dumped, and great W's. Look at all the W's down in here, produced that rally, and now I think you can actually start thinking about like bots here. This looks like a lower low, and of course this is a clothesline. Yeah, so that was a lower low, so it's probably not the best bot example. But, there are people that trade double bottom bots. I personally like 3 lows, so that's just me. But something along the lines there. And actually, this one came down to 66, so that's a bit questionable. But if you just think things like A, B, C, D, I don't see any reason why this thing can't get up to this 0.0179. That seems totally logical to me. Show me a new high and I'll show you something. Higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. Well, you guys hopefully know how all those cliches go. So there are bright spots. I mean, what is it that's causing this thing to rally? Could you have built a trading plan that said, look, I'm going to try and get in off of some sort of correction off of this? You could even go like, hell, you can see 66. But I was even going to just do this one. And I'm just blabbing away here, so hope you guys don't like this. Boom. Look at that, eh? So you could have looked at this and said, well, that was reload zone, mountain man. Oh, look at mountain man. And then nice little counter trend rally, pull back into mountain man. Then you get cute little 3-bar fractal there, and woohoo! So, and then also too, right? Zoom out, think about big picture. I'm wondering whether this has got David O's head and shoulders written all over it. So shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, shoulder. Are we breaking out? Tough to say. But you tell me, has this thing got any kind of room to move up? Now keep in mind, this is a funny one, right? It trades on Trex. I think this was a Justin Sun play, if I'm not mistaken. All I care, to be perfectly honest with you, is I went and picked some up off the double bottom level. Ironically enough, looking back in hindsight, turns out that was the level. And I've got my order to sell half on a double sitting up top here. So again, any kind of nice pop here and ching ching. But right now, I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. So if you wanted to join me, you might want to think about doing reload zones, see if you can sneak in somewhere down here. And if I got that, I might actually even think about buying some more. You can see how that strategy worked really well here. Let the W's come in, let the rally happen, then draw your reload zones. And as soon as we get to at or below reload zones, get in there shopping. And had you done that now, actually, you'd be selling half on a double even as we're speaking today. So, okay, holiday sessions, be careful. Ooh, hello. Looks like Ubic's breaking out here. Hey, Kevin, do you see this? I don't know whether you're trading Ubic. Anyway, so gee whiz, there's another example. Reload zones, right? Original W's, and look what's happening. So go figure. I mean, the irony of it all, people, is this stuff doesn't change. It's the same shit, different pile. It's just different piles. So, get out there and have some fun, people. Never a dull moment. Might want to look into what's going on fundamentally on Ubic. Maybe they got something in the hopper. Play from a position of strength. Don't take no wooden nickels. Have yourselves an awesome holiday weekend. All the best, and bye for now.